gonna hit record. All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Tang Lao. I am one of the organizers of this webinar. I am immediate past president of Philpro, the Filipino Young Leaders Program, the parent company of Tayo, which is the project initiative that is bringing you this programming tonight. So welcome to Usap Tayo, how to have hard conversations in Filipino families, boundaries, conflicts, and communications without disrespect. Super excited to have these great two speakers tonight to help us navigate through some of these difficult discussions and conversations with our family. I wanted to just say a quick thank you to NCAPA, the National Council of Asian Pacific Americans. Thank you for their support, for helping us with this programming. They've been supporting us all year with a lot of racial equity programming in terms of content and different types of things like this webinar that we're about to do. So quick couple things. Like I mentioned, Philpro, I just want to give you a little bit of background there. Philpro is the Filipino Young Leaders Program. It's a network of high-performing next-generation leaders who advance the Philippines and the Filipino people through their advocacy and expertise in various industries. We continually expand the pipeline of Filipino young leaders in the diaspora. And as mentioned, Tayo is a project of Philpro. We're an innovation data hub that empowers Filipino ex-AO communities by collecting data, fostering partnerships, publishing culturally relevant insights, and developing leaders to create an equitable and sustainable future. And I think I forgot to mention, I'm also one of the co-founders of Tayo and project director. And as part of this, we started out as a rapid response to COVID-19. We saw a lot of misinformation being shared among our titos and titas and in our community. So we wanted to try to combat that. And we've been doing this for the last 5 years, and we've definitely expanded beyond that to cover different types of issues like public health and greater media literacy. And then I'm going to stop sharing so that we can switch over to the other slide.
Okay, can you see the slide?
No.
Yeah. No? Lisa, can you see it?
I can't see it. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So happy to introduce our first speaker, Christine Melendres. She is the founder of Sweet Mango Therapy Group, psychotherapy group practice dedicated to serving the Filipino ex-AO and AEPI community. With a BA in sociology from UC Berkeley and a master's in social work from San Francisco State University, Christine specializes in empowering Filipina and AEPI women through culturally responsive and trauma-informed care. A certified brain spotting therapist, she addresses issues such as burnout, anxiety, depression, trauma, and imposter syndrome. A keynote speaker and board member of the Filipino Young Leaders Program, Christine advocates for mental health and wellness within the Filipinx community. Next slide. And our second speaker is Roanne Samuels. Roanne has been a psychotherapist for more than 17 plus years and pioneered and led the first Filipino outreach project in Solano County aimed at mental health stigma reduction. She has created various presentations on providing culturally responsive care to the Filipinx population. Her various roles in public health and mental health community departments have allowed her to visit more than 500 Filipino households. Roanne has created various presentations on providing culturally responsive care to Filipinx population. Her presentations have been presented to various organizations, including UC Davis Center for Reducing Health Disparities, Team, UC Davis's Bolasan Filipinx Studies, NPR, and others. She's currently a PhD candidate for cultural anthropology. She is a Filipina immigrant mom of 4 And today she is in private practice and works as a consultant for Solano County School District. She's the blogger behind CalamansiJuice.com and the broadcaster behind Pinoy Love Language podcasts. And when she is not in session, you can often find her belly laughing with her children and pulling weeds in her garden. Okay, and I'm going to hand it over to our two speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Welcome, everyone. So today we will start. Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. We're going to spend the next couple 5-7 minutes or so to ground ourselves before we even start. And this is important because grounding helps before having difficult conversations with family members. And so let us practice that and show you how to do it before we start. It helps us connect to the present moment. It activates the part of our nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, that calms us, grounds us, and regulates us. It helps us to stay focused, safe, and stable. All things we want to have, right? When we're about to have a difficult conversation, particularly with a loved one. So as we start, I have a script here. So you can leave camera on or off. I know maybe some of you might be driving, so you don't need to do that. You could just listen in if you're driving. We want everyone to be safe. But if you're home, just find a comfortable space and you can sit, you can lay down if you want. And so I invite you to take this moment to gently arrive in your body, connect with your breath, and offer yourself a sense of kind, compassionate presence. You don't need to do anything special, just show up as you are. So at this moment, I invite you to start by turning your attention inwardly. Take a few moments to scan your body gently with curiosity from the top of your head all the way down to your toes. And as you're doing this body scan, notice what sensations are present. And no need to judge or change anything. Now, see if you could find a place in your body that feels calm, grounded, or neutral. Calm, grounded, or neutral. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It might be the feeling of your feet against the floor, the weight of your body in your seat, or the rise and fall of your breath. If you find a spot that feels steady, calm, grounded, and neutral, I invite you to let your attention gently rest there. Use this spot as your anchor and a place where you can return if your mind starts to wander. And if nothing stands out, that's okay too. Just stay with the gentle noticing, and that's enough. Now bring your attention to your breath. Notice where you feel it most clearly, perhaps in your nose, your chest, or your belly. And begin to imagine your inhalation, you're breathing in as a soft gesture of kindness towards yourself. We're going to practice self-compassion. With each breath, as you're breathing in and out, with each breath in, I want you to imagine saying to yourself, may I be gentle with myself. So as you're breathing in, may I be gentle with myself. And with each out breath, you can say these words, may I release what I no longer need. With each out breath, may I release what I no longer need. Allow this rhythm to continue, breathing in, gentle, caring awareness, and breathing out, ease, release, letting go. And if it feels supportive, you can now place your hand over your heart or another comforting place, maybe your lap, or give yourself a hug. And let the warmth of your hands deepen your connection to this moment. And now I'll offer a few phrases. You can repeat them silently in your mind. May I be safe. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself just as I am. May I be safe. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself just as I am. As we come to a close, you can slowly bring your awareness back to your body. Feel the contact between your body and the floor or your chair. And just notice the air and the sounds around you. And thank yourself for showing up today, for pausing, for breathing, for practicing compassion, something our nervous systems and communities deeply need at this moment. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes or lift your gaze. You can stretch, move, or do anything that helps you transition back. Thank you.
So thank you for that, Christine. Welcome, everyone. Marami pong salamat for being here. I'm Roanne. As you're acclimating to our space together, you know, many of you have probably attended a Filipino potluck or have been invited to one. And as you know, if you're familiar, when the host opens the door, part of them warming you up to the home is what do, right? They might start introducing you to the aunties you never met before. This is the tita of your tita, right? Or this is Uncle Ricky, right? It's their way to warm you up. right? Like a cozy blanket. Sometimes they give you a tour, right? To the home. To your left is the bathroom. Or the one of the most coveted topic is they start asking you personal questions, almost seemingly trying to offer you an entree, but wanting to see if you would take the appetizer first, kind of warming you up. So now I'm going to now warm us up, because when I teach, I always say when we play, you feel safe, and when you feel safe, you play. It's very contradictory, right? If our bodies are feeling constricted, we are very narrow focus, or we're set on an idea, that we could be playful or curious. So at this moment, I'm actually going to have Christine unshare the screen, because I do want to see everyone's faces. So unless you're driving or breastfeeding, I do want to see your face. Oh, see, the only way that this is going to work is if I could see more faces. How lovely. Thank you. Oh, I see Greg over here. I see my friends over here. I always like meeting new faces. So just giving others a few moments to kind of show your face. I promise it's not going to take more than 5 minutes. And then you can unshare again. But it works even if there's just a few of us. This is how it works, because we're just being playful. I'm just being playful. Is that it's called cover and go. So what you would do is, if you have a piece of paper or just your hand, you would cover your camera like this. Okay? So that's cover. Now I'm going to ask 10 questions. And if your answer is yes, or that's you basically, when I say go, you're going to uncover. What you would see is you would see people that are answering yes to that same question. So give away maybe 3 seconds. You will see me because I'm facilitating. I also will wave if it relates to me. Otherwise, you'll just see me. So there's just a few of us with our cameras on. I appreciate, and we are going to honor those that maybe are driving or breastfeeding. That's the only excuse. So now go ahead and cover. So you're gonna cover like this. Perfect, cover everybody. All right, perfect. Here's the first question. I don't eat breakfast. If this is you, go and cover. Oh, 2 people, guys, 2 people. Nice, wave, go wave. Hi. Go ahead and cover now. Cover again. Here's the second question. I prefer bread over rice. Is this you? You prefer bread over rice? Yeah. Guess what? Oh, Michael, for real? Krista? Or Krista's not sure. Wow, Michael. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Cover. I don't have pets in the home. Is this you? Go. Oh, we have a few people. Actually, I want to say majority of the people who have their faces, showing up their faces. Thank you for sharing that. Cover. Don't forget to wave. I play the violin. Who plays the violin? Ah, guys, no one, at least those that are showing their faces, plays the violin. Cover. Keep it cover. I track my number of steps most days. Do you track? Oh, that's right. Oh, hi guys. These are like step trackers. Fantastic. All right, now you know your tribe. Cover. I have just a few more. I don't drink coffee. So you don't drink coffee? Oh, wow, nice. Nice to get to know you. Cover. Okay, let's see. I love my mom, but she triggers me. Is that you? Oh, guys, you're in the perfect spot. Don't forget to wave. Somebody has a double thumbs up. Thank you guys for sharing that. Cover. I get nervous attending family potlucks. Do you get nervous? Oh, some people do. Yeah, actually. Right. I see you. I have two more questions, so cover. I was born in the Philippines. Who among you were born in the... Oh, really? Hi. Okay, cover. And then I have my last question. I've never been to the Philippines. Is this you? Go. Yeah, check it out, guys. Check it out. There, Michael, you learn to love rice over bread. I'm just teasing. But thank you guys for doing that. Again, you probably noticed just by being playful, notice what that does to your body. You know, if there's a bit of an expansion. And it's also nice to really get to know people in the same space. Now I know who here were born in the Philippines and who is yet to, visit the islands. Um, Christine's gonna go back screen share, and I'm just again go back to, there you go. We're just welcoming you to having difficult conversations. Now we've warmed up, Christine has helped us ground our bodies. Um, we're gonna give you a fees because we only have limited time. So we are, instead of like thinking of every Filipino recipe and kind of scrutinizing it, we're just gonna give you um, a feast by giving you a sample of two cases in a moment. But before we start there, in the spirit of our friendship, I'm gonna just tell you a quick story. Um, this is a long time ago, before I had kids. Um, Me and my husband would have Korean exchange students. So, students who come to America, they spend a whole year here. So, our motivation there was really to have a cultural exchange with, we call our Korean son. Anyway, me and my husband really enjoys chatting. Because this is before kids, we would chat for an hour. It's just short for us. In fact, when we're sitting in restaurants, people start shooing us away. It's time to close the restaurants, but we're just kind of busy chatting away. Now, when we had our Korean exchange student, I'll just call him my Korean son. I would cook and I look forward to exchanging conversations. And he would just eat so fast, over and over again. And I want to know how his day went. Um, and we would just eat the way we would eat, slow and slow and slower. And so I'm starting to assume that I wonder if he's not enjoying my company. Do I talk too much? So I'm starting to create these assumptions. But then I thought, you know what? I'm going to ask him the question. So I asked him, his name is Hayuna. I said, Hayuna, how come you eat so fast? Because I got curious. And he goes, well, Auntie Ro, he calls me Auntie Ro. In Korean culture, or at the very least in his family, when you're served food, the way you honor is it's time to eat. It's not time to talk. So he eats fast so that later on there'll be more space for chatting. Could you imagine that? I have assumed that he probably does not like to hang out with this Filipina lady. Um, but it's very important to understand. I'm sharing this story because it's important to understand motivation and intention. When we understand intention, it does not excuse the behavior. So if you grew up with an emotionally absent mom, it's really helpful if you know the background story, that maybe your mom didn't have um, an attuned mother, does not have a role model, but it does not excuse the harm that it has caused you. So I just want to make sure that it's clear. But when we understand intention, just like my Korean son, he was not trying to ignore me. In fact, he probably is trying to reserve the time so he could chat with me after he finished eating. So when we understand intention, it does not excuse the other person, but rather it allows us to have space for empathy so that we understand ourselves better. And in the context of the Filipino family, we understand our Filipino families better. Now, the outcome, here's the outcome. This is really a true story. Outcome is that my husband and I started to learn to eat just slightly faster. And Hayuna, my Korean son, learned how to eat slower. So it's this whole cultural exchange, right? That we learn each other's differences so that we could connect. Um, Part of my work, I teach in the school, educators and other therapists, is to teach cross-cultural awareness. And I love that work because I'm sharing how we are different, not just so that we are different, but so that we could find a common ground, how we can all connect deeply. So, because I am teaching this, I created an illustration that I'm going to share with you. So the next slide, I created this illustration, and you don't have to copy it. It's in a couple of articles talking about the Filipino versus the American world orientation. When I say Filipino in America, I'm not talking about the person. I'm talking about the culture. Okay. So imagine most cultures start with the smallest unit in the society, which is the family. So in the American family, they prepare the child to be an individual, right? If you've had a child enter preschool, they always have this cutout carpet, or I should say rug. See, that's the Filipina in me. I say carpet for rug. But anyway, so where the child has to learn, this is your space, this is John's space. And if you've had a baby, observe a baby, the moment that a baby could, in the American culture, hold their neck, they're usually placed in a high chair. So then they could begin to use their pincer grasp. If you don't know what that is, that's the two fingers you use so you can pick up Cheerios. It's a very important skill. So for what purpose? So that the child could eat by him or herself. So the goal is to be an individual, to be independent. And this is not about right or wrong, but um, what is more rewarded in a particular culture. What's the most usual behavior? The belief is, well, before I get to belief, one thing also that's very interesting in schools, right? Children are rewarded in America if obviously if they're self-reliant, but also we have like crazy hat day, or like the unique, you wear socks and it's kind of funky, and you get the reward, you're the most unique, right? That is something that is rewarded in the culture, believing that when you are know how to be an independent, self-reliant, that you could probably work well in groups. And the next slide would contrast the Filipino family orientation. Notice how it's different, okay? very important to know that there's a difference in the orientation. From a neuroscience perspective, if you do things over and over again, even our brains are neuroplastic. The way we perceive changes the way we view things. So in the Filipino family, I mean, we even have the language called subo, which is spoon feeding. Initially, we subo because the child cannot spoon feed. But have you seen a mom? My mom does this when she visits. She would still spoon feed my children who are grown enough, grown enough to feed themselves. But the point of that is not based on not that they can or not spoon feed themselves. There's interdependence is cultivated connection. Even in our language, ate, kuya, you cannot be an ate without another person. It's linked to another person. So it's embedded in our language. If you're in school, barkada is like your circle of friends. It's crucial. That's why it's crucial to understand pakikiramdam, which is sensing, attuning beyond words. There are many research around this where when it's more group oriented, more collectivistic, it's almost like we are in symbiotic movement. So visit the work of Michelle Gelfand, who's a cultural psychologist, I believe. We could drop the link for her book. But just notice how I could talk about these 2 slides for an hour. But I'm just going to start there. Notice the difference that if you're successful in a group, you are likely to maybe be successful as an individual. The formation, the order is very different. So notice that. So we're going to start with our first case study with Christine.
Thank you, Roanne, for explaining the 2 worldviews of family. Very helpful. So this first case study that we're going to present is on a Filipino American female. Her name is Jane, 32 years old. She's married and loves to travel. She has no kids and does not want to buy a home because right now her priority is traveling. And traveling is costly, especially nowadays, right? So she has this pressure, pressure from her parents who want her to settle down, buy a home, have kids. They want to have apo, grandchildren. And so she's having this conflict of pleasing her parents, but also wanting to live her life in the way that she wants it. So this is leading to feelings of shame and guilt. So I'm going to ask the audience, and feel free to share aloud or in the chat if this resonates with you. Does this resonate with you personally, or maybe you know somebody that's going through this? You could just type yes or 1 on the chat if this resonates with you, or if you want to share, or if you had a similar experience.
Yes. So Chris said yes. Thank you.
So it may not be okay. Thank you, Crystal, for sharing.
Yeah. Maria said it resonated with her. Traveled, but felt guilty doing something different. Yeah, that is real, Harmony, right? Feeling guilty for not having kids. And I did say personal questions, right? When the parents are like, oh, kailan ba yan? Meron na ba yan? So let me translate. Is there something there? And it's really can be triggering. Michael, yes, with my grandparents, they passed away, feeling an obligation to impress them as if they're invisible people. Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Joed. Yeah, relatable. But being single adds another element of pressure. It is true. Yeah, especially when I kind of show the illustration. It's almost like there's a pathway, and our families or even our ancestors are kind of more, that's more their framework, if you will. Yes, dad got mad last time I traveled. As he said, that's why you don't have your own work. Yeah, yeah. And that's probably why people don't want their mortgage, right? So they can kind of travel around. There's some research around that, Christine, right? The numbers of where people are now, less people are owning because they kind of want to have that flexibility.
Right. And also, less people are having children
Yeah.
at a younger age. No,
So, yeah, go ahead, Christine.
there's this last question is, what was helpful or not helpful? And I think question is geared to those that maybe have had a conversation, a difficult conversation with your parents or grandparents. If you can share in the chat or out loud, what did you find helpful or unhelpful in this scenario?
Yeah, any brave souls who have attempted to have a real conversation, right? In which maybe give us some pointers of what you found to be helpful, or not. Maybe it's easier if somebody just, well, you can use the chat, but you can also just share your screen. Because this is hard, Christine.
Yes,
This is hard.
it is very hard.
And while you guys are thinking about it, what's your experience? Is there any? It was just easier. I'm sorry, I'm just going on to not have a conversation. It was easier not to have a conversation, but just to avoid and distance myself from parental desires. Allowed to set some healthy boundaries, especially on choosing myself. The eldest daughter. Yes, Maria. I can relate. I'm actually the ate. We're 5 in the family. I'm the eldest daughter.
Same here.
Same here. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
Yes.
setting those boundaries, I'm hearing, is what folks are finding helpful. Helpful to talk to titas that explain my parents' perspective so I can understand without arguing with my parents.
Could I expand on that, Arlene? That's I have that on my my notes actually. So sometimes in potlucks, one way that it's almost like serving an appetizer and trying to figure out hindi ibang tao at ibang tao. What that means is, are you one of us, in group and out group? And sometimes the immigrant gauge that by asking personal questions. Because the American culture is very task oriented and the Filipino culture is very relational, most of the time, I have this experience because I've had hundreds of home visits where people are always asking, anak, saan ka ba nakatira? Sino ba? They're always asking. But none of them I've given my address. Because, now I'm not saying some of them are not abrasive. But sometimes they're also asking, and they are asking not to be responded to directly, if that kind of makes sense. There's a feature of that because they're kind of warming up. They might throw some jokes. And of course, I'm not saying to set healthy boundaries. Someone shared that when the husband started being upset, it draw the line. Sometimes you might have to to do that. Another thing that's helpful, that's why I, with Arlene, is if you have someone in the clan and they keep asking you personal question, it's offensive, regardless if they're not trying to offend you, but it's making you feel uncomfortable. If there's an older ate, tita, try to form an alliance. If this works for you, okay, with that tita, and it only works if the tita also is willing to listen and she's not kind of going to gossip your information. She's understand, and you tell her part of what you're experiencing, and almost she would actually be the one to regulate that. That's a very it can be a very helpful avenue to take. So thank you, Arlene. Kind of similar to that, but I have a note here. Anything you want to add, Christine?
No, I think that's great. If you can find an alliance who can understand, um, that will definitely help. I was thinking about the worldviews that you were sharing earlier, right? Because maybe that ate or that tita can see both worldviews and empathize.
Yeah. Try not to leave on a negative note if you can. I know that we hear this, and you may not agree with me, and this is okay. That's why we're having a conversation. Sometimes when we leave too early, I'm not saying to stay in positions where it's clearly somebody's being abusive. When you know that clearly, run, right? But when I'm talking about just people are being abrasive, maybe they're tactless, try not to end or leave right away on a negative note because your body remembers that. Um, if you can, find one person, again, very similar, right? Who could again re-warm you up to the 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 gathering. Humor, I find. Now, humor is kind of tricky to use because if you don't have good rapport with someone and if you use it, sometimes it's can be off. But humor is like something I use often. And so if somebody says, oh, but wala pa kayong anak? Like that. Oh, how come you? And that's a tita, like, kayo tita, giving you actual dialogue. Kayo tita, kailan kayo? And then the tita's in her 60s, right? And they just laugh. They would forget if you could kind of learn how to use humor, but I understand it's not for everybody. You're also not wrong to be offended. I am just saying that there is a different intention for them asking. I'm going to set aside the tita who are just simply gossiping. For the most part, they're really also trying to warm up to you, but at best they're tactless, right? So those are the few things I could think of. Do you want to move to case number 2, Christine? Okay, this is our case number 2. So we're just going to slowly let the case number 1 fade away in our mind's eye. This is about JJ. He's 43, Filipino-American attorney, has other siblings, but he's the responsible kuya. He financially supports family. If somebody needs something, they call Kuya JJ. Strict Catholic parents. The pressure is that he's afraid to come out. He's threatened with guilt, the Catholic guilt. Sometimes people would have this experience even as a child. If a child does something, the mom would say something like, oh, baka atakihin ako sa puso. I might have a heart attack, for instance. Could you imagine how that is very stirring for a child in which they can't really fully express themselves and they're constantly becoming a expert on reading mom's cues rather than their own bodily cues, right? So here are some questions for you. If you were JJ, what would you do and what would you consider? So what would you do and what would you consider? Because he does want to come out, but he's just like, when you talk about guilt, It's usually because you're conforming to a standard and you feel bad. If you're just going to give an advice to JJ, what would it be? I think Crystal responded to the case one, but this might be something that could relate to case number 2, right? To continue to invite parents in and just see your lifestyle, kind of warming them up. Yeah, Joshua, come out na lang. Oo nga naman. Okay, second demotion. I see the second demotion. Any thoughts, Christine? Like, what to consider? Because, Joshua said, just come out na lang. Just say it and see maybe how they would. Right. I like that. It is very scary. I actually have few clients. Yeah. Yes. Very scary. Find an affirming church. I think you want to feel safe first in your body, supported, like having a baseline of feeling supported, because you don't know the response of your family or your parents. Start with someone in the family that you trust. Yes, yes. Also, I'm thinking in the context of the Catholic Filipino culture, sometimes parents would think about the parents' resistance. Might be good to connect with other gay Filipinos to feel supported or talk to someone in the family who's supportive. That's very important. Look for a tita you could form an alliance with. I think, we have a saying, kung anong puno siyang bunga, whatever the tree, so shall be the fruit. And the resistance I think that we get from the parents would be the thinking that, did I do something wrong? Obviously, being LGBTQ, there's nothing wrong. But I'm just thinking about what they're thinking, what they're feeling, whether we agree with it or not.
We have a hand raised, Josh.
Yes, Joshua. I've been waiting for you to raise your hand. Go.
Hello, Paul. No, I just wanted to give some feedback. I was kind of in a similar situation as case study number 2. That I am in my 40s. I am a gay male. I am the responsible kuya. I take care of my parents. So, but at the same time, I didn't have a problem because I do have a tito who is gay and a tita who is a lesbian. So, like you said about finding the allies, I kind of feel like, my family's a different case, but they had already kind of done the work in the family. So when it was my time to quote come out, it was not really a problem because I already had a tito and a tita who were openly LGBTQ. So I know it is scary to come out, but like you said, if you have maybe a tito or tita or who could be a champion for you, or you have other allies in the family, and for me, I noticed the resistance. I won't ever say there was really resistance in the family, but it was more like them worrying if I would get married or have children, or like who would take care of me when I was older. So the more I showed them that like I could have a normal life, um, that made them feel more comfortable with everything.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you, Joshua, for sharing that. Actually, in my immediate family, without sharing somebody, we have that. I think Joshua, you spoke about that. I think the worry is that you won't be able to provide for yourself, but once you show them, don't worry, I could provide. It's going to be okay, even if I don't have children. I think the worry although it's very abrasive, even sometimes, even toxic behavior, I think the underlying of that is really love, at least for me, and there's some misunderstanding also, just the way we are conditioned. So thank you, Joshua, for um, sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome, Paul. And I did take my mom to the drag shows as well.
You really did. Oh my gosh.
And she really enjoyed it.
Yeah, actually in the Philippines, there's a lot of is it here or in the Philippines,
No,
Joshua?
it was here in the America.
America,
Yeah.
America. Okay, yeah, yeah.
And in fact, she got mad at me for only tipping $1. She said I need to tip $5 because they're working so hard.
Dapat doble. Okay, I like that. Okay. I need to be friends with your mom. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I thank you for sharing. Okay, Greg was saying, I'm not sure if this is helpful for the convo, but I felt like when I was seen as successful and someone who could finally support, it seemed like my gay identity didn't matter as much. Like my family was more accepting, but it did feel somewhat transactional. As an immigrant born and raised in the Philippines, very close ties. I was just there. I was there for 2 months. My father actually is a poor man. Now he's no longer poor, worked hard. But so I share that because I have relatives from all walks of life. And privilege, I know that we talk a lot about that here now in the West. That is something that if you know the feeling of being underprivileged, the parents are really going to try to climb up, do anything that they can. When I went to school, I have classmates, my classmates, their parents were farmers and they barely sleep just to put her in a good school. So that's how they buy privilege, because privilege means voice and option. So we do wish that like just my Korean son, we could cross culture so that we could learn to converse with each other, in which we truly understand each other. Okay, last one before we go. Maria, Caitlin said, my friend told me how he needs to compensate for his identity to be successful, no matter what, to be useful, to finally be accepted. And so there's almost like a light and a shadow side for that. It could be exhausting just when I'm reading it, right? To kind of constantly be proving yourself just to be accepted. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you guys. We're going to move to.
Okay, so now we're going to go, as we're closing out here, 5 tips for having hard conversations with family members. So prepare your body, like we did earlier today, would be a good tool to use before going into the conversation. Now, it's for some people, it's not going to be automatic because maybe there's a history of difficult relationships, of trauma. Maybe you have a parent who's very toxic, right? And so to prepare your body, one recommendation is to actually go to therapy to prepare your body. It may take maybe weeks or months, even for some people, years, for you to connect back to your body, right? Because trauma can get stuck in our bodies, and to feel more regulated, strong, and resilient, or even grounded, calm, and neutral when you have this difficult conversation. So this looks different for everyone. Maybe some people just need one day to do it at the spa or something. Or for some people, it could take weeks or a couple of months to prepare yourself to have that difficult conversation.
Yeah, the next one would be empathy. Of course, self-empathy first, right? Like I mentioned, sometimes we become expert in reading into what's happening to mom's facial expression, and we're in survival mode. So start with empathy with the self, but also step into the shoes of the other person, understand what they're afraid of. Like Joshua was mentioning, Are they afraid that you won't have kids to take care of you? And kind of, because there's no framework, that's what they followed, that's what they were expected to follow. So in a way, you're paving a new way, and sometimes that's really harder. There's no map. Um, so so empathy, just stepping into what is the yearning or the longing of the other person. And if you're going to enter a conversation and you're thinking, well, I'm going to convince them that I'm right and they're wrong, slow down. Maybe that's not the right time to enter that conversation just yet. And like what Christine was saying, just prepare your body. Tender Startup is by couple psychologists, the Gottmans. And basically, how you start a conversation is usually how you end the conversation. So if you're going to say something like something that you're going to therapy, okay, Tender Startup is something like, you know your mom's resistance or your dad, so you're going to speak it first. For example, you'll say, I know, mom, you've done everything for me. There's nothing else that I could ask of you. But I'm having some hard feelings and some kind of challenge coping with it, so I'm going to therapy. So imagine if there's no Tender Startup. You could say something like, if you're going to break some challenging news, you could say something, I can't fathom what you have to go through, but this is what I'm going through. So you're basically massaging a little bit so they could listen a little better, because if the person feels like they have to protect themselves, right, they're defensive, usually it's hard for the conversation to go in a more honest and open conversation.
So some other tips are thank you, Rowan. Active listening, using I statements, and to validate feelings. This can be particularly hard with parents, especially if there's that generational gap, right? But most parents might have a hard time with this. And so we, as the first or second gen, can model this to our parents when we are having these difficult conversations, um, or titos and titas, whoever it may be. Then normalizing the feelings, which is also not common in our culture, right? Growing up, uh, like I know for me, I was not allowed to have feelings, right? And so one tool that we use, some therapists give to clients, I know I give them this tool, the feelings wheel. If you go to feelingswheel.com, you can literally pull it up from your phone and see the wheel, right? In the middle, there are some core feelings, and then there's more descriptors as it expands. So normalize acknowledging the feelings and accepting it can help. And we know that this can be very difficult. Rowan and I work with families, and so this is I guess, for some people and families, if you're open to it, there is family therapy available to help you, maybe with these 5 tips, right? Or even to have the difficult conversation. So for some families, they do need that mediator and that professional. Any more, Roanne, you want to add?
No, that's perfect. Thank you, Christine.
So as we're past time, but would love to hear feedback. I know there's a feedback form. This is Roanne's work. Her website is calamansijuice.com. You could find her also. She has a Pinoy Love Language podcast. Her Instagram is calamansijuice for you. Lizelle put the feedback form on the chat. Thank you, Lizelle. So feel free to do that. You could also find me at sweetmangotherapy.com. It's spelled how it sounds. And on Instagram, Sweet Mango Therapy. So thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.